Okay, and we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Red Chill Cinema. We're finally doing those again.
Mm.
Men, don't you dare get mad at women who humiliate you.
Shall I explain the title?
Yeah, go ahead, explain the title. Yeah.
All right. So essentially, I read this article from, I think it was Hollywood Watch, about the latest
Film Industry Watch, it's called.
Film Industry Watch.
Yeah.
And it's about this latest trend in media of, how would you describe it? But essentially, it is a condemnation of men. Either they're incompetent or they're predatory. And the climax is that women kill them. As you do, right? It's sort of like basically Birth of a Nation, except feminist. So it's sort of like the whole thing where Helen Pluckrose and her co-conspirators published Mein Kampf, except they changed Jew to man, and they got it published in a modern feminist academic paper. Well, all of this cinema is basically just Birth of a Nation. And if you don't know what Birth of a Nation is, it basically revolves around the lynching of a black man who was predatory towards a white woman. And yeah, that's media. That's modern media. They just do that show, that movie over and over and over again, except the black person is a man, the KKK is women, and there you go. And never do you actually question the premise that men are uniquely sexually predatory. But if men are upset over this is the final. You know what? Actually, that's spoilers. But the title is actually spoilers to the final conclusion of the article, which I'll leave as just a exercise for the viewer because I don't want to spoil it. But I think you might know where we're all leading up to in this article. But let's allow a little bit of anticipation.
Yeah, don't bury the lead too much.
Yeah.
Just let's get into the thing. So I just want to tell you guys before we start, YouTube has done something. And it is affecting our vertical stream. So yesterday, I'm just giving a little bit of backstory so you understand where this comes from, because I didn't do this, and that's the most important thing you guys understand is that I didn't do this. Yesterday, when I was hosting the news show, YouTube allowed me to set up the vertical and horizontal streams the way I always do, but they now have a new mode in their studio where you can send out a vertical and a horizontal simultaneously under one backroom instance in the studio. And so yesterday I didn't do that. I put them on separate streams. But the problem with the horizontal was that it didn't actually show up in a it didn't show up as a I'm sorry, the problem with the vertical was it didn't come out as a vertical. So it wasn't reaching people on their mobile devices. It instead came out as a horizontal where most of it was blacked out except for the vertical section of the video. Kind of like if you put out like let's say you put out a short and it's too long for shorts. So what shorts, it doesn't make it into a short, it just makes it into a standard video. And so that's what happened yesterday. And I saw that, but I was like, well, I don't know what to do about it. So today I thought I would try to do the thing that YouTube was suggesting I do, which is to essentially create a simulcast of a horizontal and a vertical. And I even tried to plug in the stream key from the vertical, which I was able to grab on its own and drop it into my vertical plugin over here on OBS in the hopes that it would come out as a vertical, but it's not. So we don't really have a vertical stream. We have a vertical that is just like the center of the horizontal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
basically YouTube has just screwed the shorts streaming. Ugh.
For now, unless I figure out a workaround. Yeah. I'm sure that there are people working on it because this literally happened last night, like right before the news show, they changed it.
Of course. So this won't actually end up being a short, or is there something?
It's going out on the shorts, but
I don't see it.
It's not the layout that we have. Yeah, I see it. Let me see how it looks. I don't know how it's showing up here, but I'm just letting you know that
Okay, but I don't
YouTube
see
has
an
done
actual
something.
instance or
Yeah, there isn't an instance, but for some, okay, so, but it must be that it's streaming to mobile devices, but it's streaming this stream instead. And it did say, do you want to do vertical and horizontal? So I said, okay, let's see what it looks like. And this is what it looks like. So, and it's weird because it's just this channel, at least like of the two that I tried my channel earlier today. And I was able to do the vertical, horizontal, as far as I can tell, and there were no issues. But then again, I didn't check, so maybe I should do that. Anyway, I'm just letting you
Mhm.
know the
Okay.
vertical is out there, but it's not. It doesn't look like what we have set up here. So
Okay, so good grief. And the vertical is where we make our shorts too.
yeah.
Oh, goddamn YouTube. And of course, it's just this channel that's supposedly having this problem.
Well, I mean, I didn't. It might not just be this channel. I'm just letting you know that this is like what we're dealing with right now. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll figure
for
out
this
what
show,
happens at
I'll
the
see
end.
if, yeah. I mean, I'll have to find a fix. See if anyone, because I know a lot of streamers that have been using this tool, this setup for a while, and they must also be
Well, it was just
experiencing
fine. It
this.
was working just fine.
Yeah, I know.
I wonder if this is an effort for YouTube to be able to control who is able to stream on the shorts. Because of course we had a whole freaking workflow going. We streamed to shorts. My husband Jonathan would cut the shorts up and publish them, and now that's in jeopardy because of YouTube's arbitrary changes. God
Yeah.
damn it.
Well, I'll show you something, okay? Just so
Okay.
you can see what it is. So this is the stream I did today,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the vertical stream. So
Okay.
if you can't tell right off the bat, it's not laid out in the standard shorts layout. It's actually just a regular horizontal stream. Do you see
Mm-hmm.
that? And that's what happened today when I did a stream.
Okay.
So that means that we could do it this way in the future. And then what Jonathan's going to have to do is basically just like, use this layout and just crop out like the black parts and make the shorts that way. But that's what it's going to look like.
What
So,
the hell, YouTube?
yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
Jesus Christ. Honestly, it might be worth it to just maybe change this horizontal layout a bit. Like maybe look at like the way the Lotus Eaters do it, and then just use that if the shorts have gone to crap on YouTube. Why would they change something that was working? God damn it. This was really irritating because it changes everything downstream of this stream. And we were doing pretty good with the shorts. All right, well let's get to the meat of the matter.
I don't think we can fix this right now. I'm just letting you all know that YouTube changed something. So we'll figure it out later. But in the meantime, so we're going to be looking at the cinema's formula for awards and festivals, the humiliation and vilification of men. What?
Sorry, I'm just annoyed. This I'll just relax out the annoyance.
Okay. Well, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, we can't do anything
I
about it.
know it's
So
not you, Brian. I
no,
know
I
it's
know. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's nothing we can do about it right now.
yeah, I know. Okay, let's do
Mm.
it.
All right, maybe Rumble will start doing vertical streams or doing the same kind of business. All right. Should I just read this then?
Yeah, let's read it. I mean, what I was going to suggest is we only read a little bit and then have a reply because that makes better shorts. Having whole paragraphs, and then the short just makes shorts of the article without including us. So we're going
Yeah.
to have to stop more often if we do that format. Of course, I don't know if we're going to even be able to do shorts from this because of the YouTube changes. But so yeah, let's just read a sentence and then we'll discuss it,
Okay.
or a sentence or two.
So this is I guess this is like an analysis of this trend that's been going on forever. And I guess that, maybe it's an admission, I don't really know. So the war on men, how cinema became a weapon in the cultural backlash against men and masculinity. Guest post by concerned filmmaker and FIW staff. That's Film Industry Watch staff. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, let's keep going.
All right. I will say something though, real quick about this. It's interesting that it's framed as backlash against men. Backlash for what?
Yeah, for what?
That suggests a counterattack or like a defensive maneuver, right? Backlash for what? That's all I would ask.
Yeah, because they have this premise that men shot first.
Yes.
And yet, again, within the entire premise that men shot first, every time we point out that men enforced sacrifice on other men that they didn't do to women, they say, oh, well, men did that. Yes, that's the point. You are asserting that men constructed a society where women bear the brunt of the sacrifices for men's benefit. So every instance where we point out that no, actually it's men enforcing sacrifice on other men is a counter example to your assertion. And you can't dismiss it by saying, well, it's just patriarchy backfired or men are doing it to each other, right? There was no first volley by men. Nowhere in history, if you actually look at it outside the feminist framework, which enforces its own viewpoint on the evidence and the assumption that, and then looks at the enforcement of its own viewpoint on the evidence and says, yes, that proves our viewpoint. No, it doesn't. That's completely solipsistic. It's eating your own ass in terms of the science. But if you actually look at history, men enforced sacrifice on other men in order to maintain society. They enforced sacrifice in war in order to protect society and women's interests. This is something they don't mention. They enforced sacrifice on men to police other men to make sure they abided by the rules of society, right? Throughout history, and that sacrifice sometimes came with a greater say in government. And the government was about sacrificing. So men were doing the sacrificing, and oh my God, they had greater say in the sacrifice. Geez, what an onerous imposition on women. So they say that men shot first. This is a backlash. Men shot first. Men never shot first. All right? They just tried to construct a society of safety, security, and provision for everyone.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. In one jarring scene of Promising Young Woman 2020, a young man gently lays an apparently drunk woman on a bed and begins unbuttoning her dress. You're okay, you're safe, he whispers, a grotesque reassurance even as he pulls down her underwear without consent. Suddenly, she sits bolt upright, stone cold sober. I said, what are you doing? She demands, fixing him with an icy stare. The predator freezes, terrified of being caught.
Okay.
This moment of tables turning shock. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Again, don't go too far.
I know.
If I put my hand up like this, let's just go into the actual text of the thing. Again, this generation of women is on track. Well, actually has already exceeded the violent sexual predatoriness of any generation and the current generation of men, at least according to the millennial shift, which has now been replicated at least 2 times, possibly more, by the researchers been looking into. You don't know what the millennial shift is. It is that millennial women, and probably Zoomer women, so younger women, are engaging in sexual violence at rates never seen before. And what do I mean by sexual violence? I mean use of drugs. I mean use of weapons, knives, guns, use of credible threats. Like, if you don't submit to me, I am going to accuse you of rape, right? They're doing this at incredible rates. So this generation of female cinema goers and female cinematographers and scriptwriters and directors who are creating this schlock, they are the rapiest group of people on the motherfucking planet in history. And the funny thing is that men are willing to acknowledge their role in sexual violence, but women aren't. So they create this exploitation of cinema that completely distorts the reality of it, and that just pins it on men. It's just men, right? It's just men who do this. Meanwhile, it's actually becoming majority women behavior. Unbelievable, isn't it? I wonder
Well,
if
for as
that's
long as we've been measuring it, it may have been an issue
yeah,
for
it may have
long
been,
before.
but it may also be the fact that this generation of women has the worst attitudes towards male victims since they kept track, and also has the worst expectation of sexual responsibility. Like, and also has a narrative that they don't have to take sexual responsibility because the only sexual predators are men. So it's entirely possible that feminists, and yes, it's feminists who constructed this, maybe with the handmaiden of patriarchy as feminism's handmaiden, they've constructed this. What with Mary Koss, who's the originator of the 1 in 4 women will be raped or attempted rape, and saying that made to penetrate is taken out of the definition of forced sex. That is, a woman forcing a man to have sex is no longer considered rape in the Center of Disease Control statistics, right? So that really muddies the water with all of this. Okay. And I would even have feminists arguing that shouldn't be considered rape. This shouldn't be, rape can only be a male crime. Well, what a fatuous, yeah, if I definitionally recast rape as only a female crime, then I'm going to find that only women commit it. Like, it's such a fatuous game of cards, game of like shells, definitional shells. It's,
yep.
But ultimately, feminism has constructed this attitude towards rape. That means that feminism has constructed a rape culture targeting male victims. And what a surprise. As a result of that, what feminists constructed, there's an increasing rape of male victims by women. You're giving them a plausible excuse. You're telling them you don't have to take responsibility for your predatory behavior because it's categorically different. It's not rape. It's a surprise sex. Like, he didn't know he wanted, even if it was at knife point. And so this whole cinematic universe, this extended cinematic universe of rape is a complete fiction that these women have constructed. Meanwhile, they're probably complicit and doing a lot of sexually predatory behavior themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a backlash, everyone. Men are having a backlash. Okay, all right.
All right.
No, women are having a backlash. Men shot first.
This moment of tables turning shock encapsulates a striking new archetype in today's critically acclaimed cinema. Men as predatory or pathetic figures, and women as their righteous reckoners or survivors. Don't think that's new. I think that's been going on a long time. I remember, I mean, granted, it's been a lot more like in your face these days, but there was a grindhouse film in the 1970s called I Spit on Your Grave, which was a bunch of like feminist revenge porn on men. I've never seen the movie, but I could tell you that and it was a bit exploitative too, which is weird. So it was kind of like part like borderline pornography, part like violent feminist revenge fantasy, and that's from the 1970s. So this is not like a new thing.
It's
this
just
kind of stuff is very common. What?
It's just that this is now everywhere.
Yes.
Like that used to be Grindhouse, and you'd watch it in like the sticky floored theater on the corner.
Yeah, right.
This is now everywhere.
Mainstreamed. Yeah. But also like no, I think that I don't know, like if you look at the way that men have been portrayed in film historically, typically you get, maybe a heroic male figure in a story, but there'll be a lot of really awful male figures too. And they're often, like be portrayed as rapists that just are like animalistic and violent, like they can't control themselves. And the heroic male figure deals with them, but it's still framed in this kind of like, there are only a few good men, and these are the examples of that, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm overanalyzing that, but Yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot worse. In fact, it's basically impossible to make good male characters these days.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, from indie festival darlings to Hollywood blockbusters, a growing roster of films is casting masculinity in a harsh light, depicting men as abusive, weak, absent, or broken, while positioning women as victims turned avengers or the moral centers of the story. And of course, the world is nothing if not black and white. Why wrestle with the messy complexity of gender dynamics when you can flatten it into the simplest cliche imaginable?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's more complex than even this person is letting on. It is time for male rape victims to be recognized. We did everything feminists wanted. And I've been having arguments with feminists online. Okay. And I point out that if you're going to use the statistics on conviction, then rape is very rare. Okay, if we're only using the statistics on conviction for who perpetrates, so men are like 98% of the convictions, and women are 2%. If we're going to use those stats, then rape is extremely rare, and you can't say that this is a society-wide phenomenon that men are using to uphold patriarchy, or even that people don't take it seriously. They take it very seriously, right? Once rape gets to the point of being charged, it is as likely as any other violent crime to end up in a conviction in the US, and it's far more likely in the UK, right? So this is not a crime that people do not take seriously if you look at conviction rates, right? But and feminists want to look at conviction rates for who is doing the raping, but then they want to look at the surveys for how prevalent it is, how little society takes responsibility for it, how few rapes end up in convictions. But the unfortunate problem for feminists is that when you look at the surveys, you look at the most accurate surveys, women are almost at parity in terms of sexual violence as men. Okay? Like it's slightly less for women, but then we also have to consider the underreporting of male victims. So women are doing a lot. They have probably half of all sexual violence to take responsibility for themselves. If we look at the surveys, which the feminists want to point to say that society isn't taking rape seriously. Well, if you're going to point to the surveys and say that, then it's time to take male victims of female sexual assaulters seriously. It's time. It's their time now, feminists. And they don't want to do that. So they play this ping pong game. Oh, society isn't taking rape seriously because look at the surveys. But the surveys say that women are equally likely to rape. Well, don't look at that. Look at the conviction stats. And it's infuriating. And that is the foundation of this dreck. Think about it. Remember Me Too? Where were the men? Where were the male victims?
Mm-hmm.
They were ignored. They were marginalized. I have stories of men who brought up their victimization by women, and women would shout them down. Feminists would shout them down and say, "You're derailing. This is women's moment. When is men's moment? Huh? When are women going to step up and say, hey, actually, we have a certain amount of sexually predatory behavior to take responsibility for. Maybe we should stop stimming with this sexploitation and all of this revenge fantasy crap and start taking some responsibility for our own behavior. When does that happen? Okay.
All right. Let's see. So, abusive, weak, or absent, the new male stereotype on screen. Recent award-winning and festival circuit films have not been subtle about the state of their men. In Eliza Hittman's drama, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, 2020, the men orbiting 17-year-old Autumn are all, with no exception, either useless or predatory. At her supermarket job, the sleazy manager discusses Autumn's illness and leers. It's really just a few more hours. You can do it. Besides, I'd get lonely if you left. a line dripping with inappropriate undertone. God, I couldn't watch. These are the movies that win awards, by the way.
Yep.
It's this stuff,
Yep.
that gets praise. And it's interesting that we're going to be looking a little bit at this Bryrony Claire video. It's exactly the kind of shit that people like Bryrony Claire will reference as data. Did you see this movie? Allow me to present you Exhibit A, this movie, as proof of men. Right?
Yeah, they construct in reality.
Yeah.
And then they reference that constructed reality as evidence of reality. It's insane.
Yes.
And again, women apparently cannot take responsibility for their half of sexual violence. Like, and for some reason, this is a backlash. Men took responsibility, right? They continuously take responsibility. Why was that French woman, Giselle Pellicot, why is it that she is not right now continuing to be sexually assaulted in the 3 or 4 days a week that she loses, which I don't know how many people that actually applies to. I don't know how many people can just lose 3 or 4 days a week worth of time and just not even question it. But anyway, she would still be sexually assaulted in her 3 or 4 days of blackout if it weren't for the French police men who apparently were more on the ball about her safety than she was, found out all about all of this and pursued bringing those men to justice. But what do we focus on? We don't focus on the fact that without those men, Giselle Pellicot would still be in the situation she is in. We focus on the men who did it. Right? But here's the thing. Men have demonstrated throughout history a willingness to police the predatory sexual behavior of other men. That's why we have rape as a crime, at least when it comes to women right now. That's why we see conviction rates of men. But they don't have the will to police women's negative sexual behavior towards other men. There just isn't that kind of, it just doesn't feel that important to them. That's where women could step up and do it. Well, we'll see, I guess. Or we can continue to write this bullshit and present this bullshit as the truth in cinema. We'll see what women end up doing. Will they start to take responsibility for their half of sexual violence? Or will they continue to offload all responsibility on men in these cinematic lies? Need some Jeopardy music or some like thinking music. I wonder what will continue to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, at her supermarket job, the sleazy manager already read that, right? Yeah. Later, as the girls turn in their registers, he even kisses Autumn's hand through a money slot in a furtive act of harassment. Jojo, stop it. Jojo's picking up sounds outside. Far worse has happened to Autumn behind the scenes. During a counseling session, she's asked if her partner ever made her have sex when she didn't want to. Autumn cannot even speak. The script notes Autumn's floodgates open. She breaks down in tears. The movie is, I looked it up because I'm like, okay, what is this? And I know it's some feminist shit. So Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always is a 2020 drama film about a teenage girl navigating an unintended pregnancy alongside Talia Ryder as her cousin. The film follows the pair as they travel from rural Pennsylvania to New York City to seek medical help, a journey marked by emotional weight, quiet resilience, and the challenges of accessing reproductive health care. So that's the kind of movie it is, if that helps. So it's not just a film about like men being predatory and bad, but it's also about women not able to get common sense reproductive health care, i.e. abortions, which is I'm pretty sure what it's about. And it's just like full to the brim with like all kinds of propaganda that women just eat up apparently. But okay, anyway, pressed further, has anyone forced you into a sexual act? She finally chokes out, yeah, confirming that a boy in her life raped her. Of course. the men in Autumn's world, all of them are either absent when needed or the source of trauma, whereas the moral agency lies entirely with Autumn and her female cousin who supportively accompanies her on a secret trip to get an abortion.
Okay. I want to lay out a statistic that I mean, this is based on some grok analysis, but you know, that's primarily what that AI is for. Apparently, if you average everything out, men spend as much time policing lesbian violence as they do engaging in violence. Think about that. Men spend as much time, possibly more, just policing the violence that women do in sexual relationships with each other as they do engaging in their own violence. Isn't that incredible? And yet men are the ones. Well, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna say only if you are shocked to learn that.
Yeah,
I mean,
men whole cloth are the ones who police bad behavior in our society. Without them, women would be in relationships with other women, which means the domestic violence and sexual assault would probably increase 2 or 3-fold, and nobody would be there to police it. Mostly, you probably just have feminists excusing it. Oh, it's a good rape. Oh, it's a good beating. You're learning how to be a proper woman. It's insane, and I base that on the fact that feminists are in a war against punishing women. They're getting rid of jails, or they're trying to get rid of jails in the UK. They've successfully gotten rid of juvenile detention for girls, but they're going after jails in the UK. That's what they want to do. They don't want to see women imprisoned for their violent crime. They don't want to see women charged with crime, period. Everybody's got to be excused. So if you are in the future, the femme future, where there's only women, it's going to be the woman being beaten who's going to be told, oh no, you can't feel bad about this, right? You can't feel bad about the woman, your female partner who's beating you, because that's against the sisterhood. Like it would be terrifying to have a female only world, because the amount of domestic violence and sexual assault that would go completely unchecked, and in fact, the victims of domestic violence and sexual assault would suddenly be the ones criminalized, because nobody's allowed to speak out against the sisterhood. Nobody's allowed to recognize the violence that women engage in. It would be an absolute dystopian nightmare, because we would lose men's sense of fair play and justice and their willingness to put themselves on the line to ensure that people are peaceful and respect each other. Again, men spend as much, possibly more time engaging in policing lesbian violence as they do engaging in violence against women. And that doesn't even cover the statistic about how much time men spend policing other men's violence. It's something like 39 times more time men spend policing, incarcerating, the criminal justice system, protecting women, and dealing with the injuries as a result of other men's violence. 39 times more effort is putting in to prevent and ameliorate the damage of criminal men by men than the criminal men are putting in being criminal towards women. 39 times more effort. Like this is men are absolutely passionate about punishing other men who hurt women. They are absolutely, this is their driving passion. This is their driving passion. If it were up to men, these criminal men who hurt women would be freaking vaporized. But unfortunately, there's this strange thing that happens, because when they're criminal men who hurt women, like Wade Wilson, suddenly 4,000, a deluge of love letters from other women. There's this funny thing that happens because there's somebody supporting these criminal men, and it's not other men. It's not other men. Not at all. Somebody is supporting these men. Somebody is creating these men, these criminal men. that other men, normal men, have an absolute passion to destroy. But they keep popping up. They keep coming from somewhere. Huh. I wonder where. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. So, anyway, film after film paints its male characters in a similarly dismal hue. Emerald Fennell's acid-tinged thriller Promising Young Woman takes direct aim at nice guys who are anything but. Its parade of men are rapists or enablers, from the group of college bros who assaulted the heroine's friend, to the former friend, now doctor, who laughed it off, to the seemingly sweet new boyfriend who was ultimately revealed to have been complicit. So, like, Promising Young Woman, I remember the trailer for this movie, actually. It's this one that's here, and it's about a woman. I'm not kidding. This is the plot, okay? It stars Carey Mulligan as Cassie Thomas, a 30-year-old medical school dropout who works in a coffee shop and spends her evenings pretending to be drunk in bars and clubs to confront men who attempt to take advantage of her sexually. She kills them. It's not confrontations. She is basically a vigilante taking out all the evil rapist men by going to bars, pretending to be drunk, and of course, I guess all the men, they take the bait because we're all rapists right underneath the surface, and she kills them. It is another crazy, unhinged feminist revenge power fantasy. And it is described as like literally feminist. The vigilante behavior stems from the traumatic rape and subsequent suicide of her best friend, Nina Fisher, whose rapist, Al Monroe, was cleared of wrongdoing, because, that totally happens. The film incorporates black comedy, crime drama, feminism, rape and revenge, and vigilante thriller. It won a lot of awards, but I don't think it made any money, so I guess that's something. But anyway, this is just normal now. This is like, par for the course. This is what our content is. Its parade of men are rapists or enablers from the group of college. I read that part. Sorry. The film's biting opening illustrates this dynamic in miniature. Cassie, pretending to be obliterated by alcohol, is rescued by a man who coos assurances while attempting to take advantage of her incapacitation. Cassie suddenly drops her ruse, eyes clear and voice firm, scaring the hell out of him as she forces him to recognize his predatory behavior.
We need a gender reversed. Like, this is how insane this is. Let's imagine this was a man doing this to women who take advantage of men who are incapacitated, and they just he just kills them.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that plot line? I don't think it would happen. I don't think it would fly.
It would never get off the cutting room floor. It wouldn't even be like allowed to be written.
We can't even hold women accountable for their sexual crime. We can't even stomach that. And that's what's behind all of the, oh, nice, oh, I wish that was my teacher. It's because those men can't stomach the idea of holding women accountable for sexual crime. It just goes against their nature. But the same men are absolutely passionate about, absolutely just white hot, passionate about policing the sexual behavior of other men. Like I said, 39 times more effort put into policing the criminal behavior of other men towards women than engaging in it by men as a group. And yet, what do feminists say? You don't care enough. They still exist. You don't care enough. Oh, where are they coming from? Why do they still exist? These are the questions. Why do they still exist despite the average man being absolutely passionate, or the average man being far more, like, if you're going to just amortize this over all men, they're far more passionate about ending crime against women than engaging in it. So why does this still continue? Maybe it's not men's fault that it continues. Maybe they're doing what they can to stop it, but there's certain things happening that are either outside of their control or they aren't willing to call to account. Because those men who say, oh, it's nice, and oh, I wish that, where were those women when I was a kid, right? Those guys, that scenario, a teenage boy and an adult woman taking advantage of him, is in terms of the longitudinal studies, the most likely to cause that young man to become a sexual predator of others. Now it's a minority of boys who do that, who end up becoming sexual predators, even when they are raped themselves. Minority, like 10%. I mean, that's what it takes, right? It takes being sexually abused and having impulse control problems in your brain to make a male predator. But that is the scenario that creates them. So those guys who are like, oh, where were those women when I was, those guys, they're signing off on that boy going on to abuse others, which is what they're concerned about. Well, if you're that concerned about it, end it at its source. End it where it begins. But of course, again, men struggle with acknowledging women's sexual violence because that's not what they're about. They're about policing other men. But women could step into this and start policing women. The only problem is attitudes are getting worse among women. Younger women have shittier attitudes towards male victims of female sexual assaulters than older women. Can you believe that? In the past, we were better about recognizing male victims of sexual assault than we are today. It's getting worse. And these are the women who are constructing these cinematic masterpieces of absolute lies and farting out cover for their own behavior. Oh, okay.
All right. In Promising Young Woman, men's misdeeds are the central evil, and the avenging angel is a woman driven to drastic ends to expose them. Even basically decent men are portrayed as cowardly or culpable. The message is that every man is guilty, if not of rape, then of complicity or willful ignorance, and it's the women who bear the pain and seek justice, writes one reviewer in summary of the film's provocations. So, this is all on purpose. I mean, like, they're literally making shit up and then making it, like, try to convince people that this is the truth. In this new cinematic landscape, even when men aren't outright villains, they are depicted as feckless, foolish, or fragile. Take last year's Cannes Palme d'Or winner Justin Triet's Anatomy of a Fall. The drama centers on a wife accused of killing her husband Samuel under murky circumstances. As the trial unspools, a damning portrait of the late husband emerges. Samuel was a frustrated writer suffering personal envy and depression, prone to paranoid behavior. He had been secretly recording his wife Sandra's every word for months and grew jealous of her literary success. In a climactic court scene, the prosecution plays an audio recording of the couple's final argument in which Samuel's composure collapses and an explosion of violence is heard. It suggested that he physically attacked Sandra. She was left with bruises, leading to the fall that killed him. The subtext is clear. Samuel is depicted as emotionally broken and volatile, a man who literally couldn't handle being eclipsed by his wife. Sandra, by contrast, is portrayed as complex but ultimately more sympathetic, an intellectual and mother who maintains poise under pressure, effectively the moral center as the court and audience weigh her fate. God, this is bad writing. Anatomy of a Fall isn't clever.
Its audience, it's triggering all the pressure points for its audience.
Yes.
Like literally, I guess women in the West just want to divorce men entirely. They just want them out of their life because you're right. I remember you said initially there was an observation that there was usually a man, even in the Lifetime movies, there was usually a man who helped save the woman and ended up being a romantic partner.
There was at least a good man.
There was at least one good man. But now they're getting rid of that. Yes. Now they're getting rid of that. There are no good men. Even though men, as a collective, put 39 times more effort into policing the criminal behavior of other men than they do into engaging in it. If you want to look at men as a collective, right? Far, far more passion into punishing men who hurt women. Men put far, far more time and passion into punishing men who hurt women than hurting them. If you want to look at men as a collective, we know that's ridiculous, but if we're going to do that, let's be honest about the collective nature of men. Right? And again, if these cinematic masterpieces were honest with reality, without men, women would be subject to substantially more violence from other women because men police their violence too. Maybe not as effectively, which is a big problem because men struggle with holding women accountable. That's one of the things, that's the big criticism I'd have with men. They struggle with holding women accountable, but they still do it, and they do it more than women. That's what's hilarious by women saying, well, patriarchy, well, if patriarchy is enforcing sacrifice, that's other men choosing to do it. Right. Because you wouldn't enforce this on other women, and you would not enforce, you probably would enforce it on men, obviously, from this cinematic stuff, but you wouldn't enforce it on other women. For whatever reason, women do not police other women in this way. They police them if they feel like they're a threat to women's overall access to resources, sure, but they do not police their bad behavior towards men. At least not in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's keep going.
Anatomy of a Fall isn't clever. It's entry level.
Sorry, Brian. They also don't police their bad behavior towards other women. They have to rely on men to do that. Yep. Okay, continue.
Anatomy of a Fall isn't clever. It's entry-level bait and switch. The script stacks obvious she did it breadcrumbs, loaded anecdotes, conveniently incriminating fragments, a neatly arranged trail of marital rot, and then smirks, gotcha, misogyny, as if the audience's suspicion were proof of their bias rather than a direct result of the film's own engineering. That's not depth. It's a cheap card trick where the magician palms the queen and then lectures you for noticing the deck. So apparently, because I would never watch it, they basically set you up to think that the woman did it this whole time, and then they turn the tables and say, ha, it's misogyny, and it's your fault for thinking it was the thing that they were leading you to believe it was.
Okay, so it's your fault.
And you're also part of the problem, right?
Yeah, you're part of the problem
that's incredibly manipulative. Go ahead.
You're part of the problem because you believed the evidence that they presented. They controlled everything, so they presented evidence of her guilt. But the fact is, you didn't believe her, so they are going to tell you that you were wrong for following the evidence. You should only ever believe women. Yep. This is such heavy-handed propaganda. And this is destroying women. The more they invest in this narrative, the more absolutely insane they become. Have you noticed this? That when you unmoor a human being from expectations of treating the other gender like they're human, they cease to be human themselves. You become a monster. Because women are not held accountable for their behavior towards anybody but themselves, they have descended into becoming monsters. That's what the millennial shift is showing. Right? Believe all evidence. Only believe women. That is the war cry of female abusers. Okay? Okay.
Yep. All right. I think that they're just going to go into more of this example. I think I'll jump ahead a little bit. All right. Even ostensibly lighthearted films reinforce the theme. Greta Gerwig's blockbuster Barbie, you may have heard of this one, garnered attention for its candy-colored feminist subtext. In the film's satirical reversal, Barbie Land is a matriarchy where Barbies run everything and Kens are decorative sidekicks. But when Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, discovers the concept of patriarchy, he promptly leads an over-the-top male takeover that plunges Barbie Land into a goofy dystopia of horse-inspired macho posturing. The depiction of Ken and his brethren is pointedly comical, vain, simple-minded, and easily manipulated by their own fragile egos.
Okay. But the fragile egos was their desire to actually protect and provide for women. That's what's freaking hilarious about it. These men, the Kens, were manipulated by wanting to help the Barbies, wanting to protect the Barbies. Like, they were manipulated by the things that feminism doesn't say exist, or basically frames as benevolent sexism.
Yes, benevolent sexism. To defeat the Kens, the Barbies execute a clever plan. We'll distract them by pretending to be helpless and confused. Kens can't resist the damsel in distress, one Barbie explained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because they care. Honestly, if men were women's enemies, do you display a weakness, ladies? And men will use that to destroy you. Because that's what enemies do to their enemies' weaknesses. They don't use it as a clarion call, as a call to do whatever they can to protect women from their own weaknesses, to protect them. They don't do, that's not how enemies work. Enemies, when you show your weakness to an enemy, that enemy endeavors to exploit it to their own ends. So you're essentially saying right there that men are not women's enemies. And you are using men's desire to protect and provide for you against them. How honest Barbie was. How absolutely honest it was to that dynamic. That these women manipulate men by using their desire to protect and provide for women's weaknesses. Right? To carry women over the rushing stream. Oh, geez, dudes. Geez, you're so horrible to women. So that's how we can manipulate you, by wanting to protect and provide for us. What a bunch of bullshit. What a bunch of snarky, self-involved, selfish, solipsistic bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Barbies feign cluelessness to flatter the men, who immediately fall for it. In one scene, a brainwashed Ken leans over a Barbie to mansplain the difference between stock market CDs and music CDs. Oh, sweetheart, you are just so cute when you're confused. CD stands for Certificate of Deposit, he lectures while she bats her eyelashes in feigned awe. The ruse works perfectly. The duped Kens relinquish their grip on power without the women ever needing to use force. Barbie's gleeful message is that when men do have power, they don't know what to do with it besides impose absurd chauvinism, and savvy women can easily outsmart them. The film pointedly makes its heroine the moral and emotional anchor, while the men learn a lesson in humility. And then there is Yorgos Lanthimos' surreal feminist fable, Poor Things 2023. Oh my God, I can't wait. Which flips the Victorian Frankenstein trope to sly effect. The protagonist, Bella, Emma Stone, is a resurrected woman finding her independence in a world of leering or controlling men. Oh, God. Her creator, Dr. Baxter, is a grotesque but kind man who nonetheless literally keeps Bella under lock and key for her own good. When a slick male lawyer, Duncan Wedderburn, encounters Bella, he is so intrigued by this uninhibited woman that he spirits her away on a tour of debauchery across Europe. Duncan styles himself a liberator upon meeting her. He dramatically declares, "You are a prisoner and I am to free you, or I aim to free you. There is something in you, some hungry being, hungry for experience, freedom, touch." But this version of freedom is to indulge the hedonistic sex and thrilling on his terms. In one scene, after Bella enthusiastically beds him, Duncan can't resist boasting about his sexual prowess. At the risk of being immodest, "You have just been thrice fucked by the very best," he brags to her with smug self-satisfaction. Eventually, Duncan's self-centered antics, including gambling away Bella's money, prove him to be a shallow
Where did Bella
cad.
get that money from?
What?
Where did
money?
Bella get the money from? Probably from
No
her
idea.
creator
No
or
idea.
benefactor.
Poor Things casts its men as either paternalistic protectors or libertine exploiters, and skewers both. Bella ultimately asserts her autonomy, rejecting the cages both kinds of men offer. The film's feminist lens makes its sympathy clear. The men are foolish and corrupt. The woman is the one discovering authentic moral agency. God, it's just one example after another. Can we get to I don't know, do you want me to go through more of these examples, or do you want me to find something else? Because I get it.
Let's go to
This
the
has been,
conclusion. Yeah, I get it. This is
yeah.
pervasive. Let's
Yeah,
go to
there's
the
just a bunch
conclusion.
of these. Honora, Triangle of Sadness, dismantles masculinity from start to finish.
But let's go back to that one. What masculinity does it dismantle?
Carl, a fragile male model, bickers over dinner bills and is later reduced to Abigail's boy toy in exchange for food. On the luxury yacht, rich men, from the drunken Marxist captain to the fertilizer tycoon, are grotesques. vomiting through storms, or ranting drunken politics over the
Okay,
PA.
all right. So wait, she's sexually exploiting him, and that's the statement on masculinity?
Yes. Reduced to Abigail's boy toy. Yeah, looks like it.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly the attitude that's causing this generation of women to be the rapiest generation in human history. That is not you getting yours, lady. That's you exploiting another human being. Well, I mean, I guess it's prostitution for food. But, you know, if it was a man doing it to a woman, what would you say?
Yeah.
This is why this narrative is so pernicious. This idea that this is a backlash that women are engaging against men because men shot first. I'm sorry. But and again, I've gotten into this argument with a woman. Oh, well, men protect women from sexual violence. Well, that's because patriarchy did it. Men are responsible. Yes. Men throughout history have protected women from sexual violence. Okay? And it wasn't because they thought of them as their property. You don't lynch someone for touching your car, right? You don't have that kind of passion for somebody who does something like that. So yes, men have gone out of their way to police other men's sexual behavior towards women. They've also gone out of their way to police women's bad behavior, their violence and sexual assault of other women, because men have an inherent sense of fairness. They just struggle with applying that to women when it comes to other men. Okay, anyway, let's keep going.
All right.
I lost my point.
The final act on the deserted island flips over completely. Abigail, once the ship's toilet cleaner, declares herself captain, doling out food while billionaires and influencers, especially the men, meekly comply. Carl prostitutes himself for pretzels, embodying male emasculation as comedy. The film won the Palme d'Or and Oscar nominations precisely because it revels in humiliating men and celebrating female dominance, a perfect fit for post #MeToo festival tastes.
And this is why this generation, go back up to that paragraph. This is why this generation of women is the most rapey generation in human history, because they are empowered by this narrative that it's getting back at men. There is actually a correlation between women's hatred towards men and their sexually violent behavior towards men. There isn't as much when it comes to men, for whatever reason. All right, so, but here's the question. Who's upholding her reign?
What do you mean?
Well, how does she establish her power as captain? Obviously, this is a result of some kind of mutiny, right? Well, who are the mutineers who are supporting her? Other women? Well, how would the women be physically capable of constructing this mutiny against the men? Let me just see. This is a triangle of sadness. How does the female in triangle of sadness create or manage against the male captain? Let's see what it says. I don't want to like.
During the storm,
Abigail,
served. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Staff member doesn't stage a traditional mutiny against the male captain of the yacht, but becomes a de facto leader among the survivors after the shipwreck. Here's how it unfolds. Context of the power shift. After the yacht sinks to a pirate attack, a small group of survivors, including Abigail, ends up on a deserted island. The captain, Thomas, survives, but it is in a weakened state, both physically and mentally, due to his drunkenness and the chaos of the situation. The established hierarchy from the yacht collapses as wealth and status become irrelevant. So more relevant is survival skills? And we're arguing that a woman is going to take charge in that situation? You realize that this is absolute bullshit? Okay, Abigail's rise. Abigail, we don't care, takes charge because she possesses practical survival skills, unlike the other survivors, who are mostly wealthy passengers or high-ranking crew with no real-world competence. She knows how to fish, start a fire, and secure food, making her indispensable. All right. So apparently, the woman has the survival skills, which is why she ends up in charge. This is a constructed reality. We've already seen this play out in reality. I think it was Bear Gillis's island, the male island versus the female island. The female island was completely incapable. The women were completely incapable of taking care of themselves, whereas the men established a reasonably self-sufficient little tribe almost immediately. I mean, they had their problems, but they managed it. They managed to get clean water. It was one of the most hilarious images was the women's piss water versus the men's clean water. And they had lots of it too. Like the women, they managed to pull together and create like one plastic bottle of what looked like urine. They didn't develop a filtration system. The men had created a filtration system and they had gallons of fresh water. So they're just walking up and taking a swig whenever they want. And the women are just this piss water is all we have. It's like, this is completely divorced from reality. And honestly, the men who are multimillionaires, unless they inherited their wealth, they've probably had their experience with hard labor. Like every guy has a worse job, a story about a worse job. Roofing in July, landscaping in like August, picking up trash, picking up chickens in a chicken farm. Every dude that I've talked to, or at least most of them, has a worse job, which is usually labor focused, not women. Their worst job is, I had to arrange the products in the front room of a hair salon. It was so boring. That kind of thing. Right? So right there, this is an incredibly this only occurs in fantasy, that the woman has the survival skills. It is proportionately unlikely to occur in reality. And most of those guys, unless they were, and even if they were, they may have done things like gone into the military, even if they were from a rich family, or gone into military school, or gone into scouting, right? That's a far higher proportion of men who would have survival skills in this instance than women. So it's a completely constructed reality. Absolute bullshit. Why? Because women's egos apparently need even more flattering, which is hilarious because they constantly need inflating because women feel so insecure. They feel so humiliated by what men have created. So insecure and humiliated by the achievements of men. That's why they do this. We talk about, like, a while back, my therapist pointed out, and this was a therapist who dealt with actual competencies in dealing with anxiety, which I had. He said that anxiety masks humiliation. Women affect this fear of men because they feel so inferior to men. That's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That makes sense. All right, I got a Rumble rant from Nova Fan for $1, and he says, "Don't forget another feminist trope I remember seeing: a man is sent to save a woman, but somehow he keeps failing at every basic task when she may as well rescue herself." Yes. All right. So let's just jump to the next section. It basically sums it up. Contextualizing real world statistics against the exaggerated portrayals of men in contemporary cinema. Oh, that's good. The gap between cinematic narrative and social reality is staggering. Yeah, no shit. But wow, they're lying a lot. I'm glad this person said this, though. This is an interesting admission. In the film surveyed above, male characters are overwhelmingly cast as predators, abusers, or enablers of violence, as though every man is complicit in misogyny. Yeah, that's the point. Yet hard data tells a very different story. Globally, only a small fraction of men are ever accused of sexual harassment, whether formally or informally. In the United States, for example, the Gender Employment Opportunity Commission, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission received about 7,600 sexual harassment charges in 2018, the first full year of #MeToo, which represented less than 0.01% of the US male population. Even when looking at a 4-year span, 2018 through 2021, the total number of men formally accused through EEOC charges remains well under 0.1% of American men. Yeah, but just to add to this, that's just the accusations. That doesn't actually represent whether or not it happened. It just means this is how often women complained. These are sexual harassment charges that were made. right? And in general, in the workplace, if there is, assuming this is a workplace thing, if there is an allegation made, the company usually does whatever it can to just like handle it as quickly and as quietly as possible, because they're don't want to harm their reputation. They want to avoid lawsuits, whatever. And a lot of the time, the men just get fired, or they separate them in some way or something. So they usually just do something with it. Most of the time, it results in the men getting fired, is what I believe. And so you're not even, this percentage is actually too big, is what I think. Workplace HR complaints are more common than lawsuits, but still affect only a small minority of men. Yeah, but that's because workplace HR complaints don't cost anything to make. So you can just do it. Lawsuits cost money. So you have to really think about whether or not you have a case. Research suggests that perhaps 1 to 2% of employed men over several years will face such an allegation. Anonymous surveys cast a wider net. About 4% of men in a 2017 survey admitted to behavior they considered harassment. Even if we take the higher estimates, this still means the overwhelming majority of men, upwards of 90 to 95% worldwide, are never accused of harassment at all.
Well, okay, let's keep going, but I'm going to give some more context to the reality of male victimhood.
Yeah. Now place those percentages beside the reality of male victimhood. Around 60 to 70% of the homeless in the US are men, a silent crisis rarely dramatized in prestige cinema. Men also account for about 78% of homicide victims, and globally, men die by suicide at roughly 3 to 4 times the rate of women. They also make up the vast majority of workplace deaths, overdose fatalities, and combat casualties. In other words, men are not only disproportionately the accused in cultural narratives, but also disproportionately the victims in real life.
Okay, and then you can add to that, because this is omitting a big portion. You can add to that the silent epidemic of sexual violence against men. The most accurate statistic is the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Surveys for 2010, 2011, and 2012, and possibly also 2015. I haven't looked too closely at it. After those dates, they significantly changed their methodology, which resulted in a massive reduction in the reporting rate of male victims. And the reason why is because they changed how they approached the questions. Instead of starting with questions that sort of got people comfortable with revealing any kind of sexual or domestic abuse, they would just drop those questions in the middle of other questions. So it'd be sort of like this: how many adults are in your household? Oh, okay. So four adults, 5 children, whatever. All right. Have you ever been forcibly shoved down into garbage in a alley and have your anus expanded by somebody's a table leg? Have that ever happened to you? Oh, you hung up. Well, that's really unfortunate. That's what they were. I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but instead of actually building a rapport so that people would start to be able to reveal sexual and domestic violence, these surveyors started dropping these questions in unrelated questions in an unrelated manner. And what a surprise. Not only did they receive considerably less responses from men who probably were much more uncomfortable operationalizing their abuse in the middle of unrelated questions, they also got a lot more people who just didn't complete the survey at all. Like the rate went down from 80 to 50. And then also the people who just basically noped the hell out of the whole thing went from 30, went from like 7% to 30. So they actually constructed a survey instrument that caused people to bounce more than ever before. It actually led to them having to stop the survey halfway through. And nobody knows if this is actually legitimate. But this is the kind of chicanery they get up to try to make the results fit what they want, which is that men are the majority perpetrators. But if you look at the results from the surveys that actually asked men, even though they categorized it in this weird made to penetrate, they actually asked men, were you physically forced to have sex in the last year? Who did it? You find in the end of the day that about 43% of rapists are women. And if you include underreporting in that, you're looking more at 67%. If you look at the statistics on underreporting for men, it could be as high as 67%. So the lower bound is about 40%. The higher bound is 67%. 67% of rapists are women. It's entirely within the realm of possibility. We don't know because they, instead of actually creating survey instruments to find out, they do weird chicanery to try to reduce the amount of men who talk about their experiences. Like that, they changed the methodology. You know, with a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we'll try to get few male victims to reveal, so that we can continue to perpetrate our grift, right? So
Yeah.
we don't know. We don't know, but it could be anywhere between 40 to 67% female rapists. Yep. That's an entire epidemic. And these chicks, they aren't, we're not talking about, I don't know, a glass of wine at dinner rape. We're talking about weapons. We're talking about use of drugs, use of minor status. So in other words, they're preying on underage boys. And we're talking about use of accusations, threats, credible threats of physical violence. What do you think a false accusation of rape is? So flat out, we are dealing with a silent epidemic of female rapists in our society that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody except us. Not even this article wants to talk about. Maybe they don't even know about it. They don't even know about it. So even the absolute, like the specific arrangement of victimhood that they're presenting in this cinema of sexual victimhood is most likely, and I actually had Grok run the numbers, it is highly improbable that the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey for 3 years in a row would find that high rate of female perpetration in a society, in a world, if reality was significantly asymmetrical in its gender perpetration of sexual violence. That means if reality really bore out the way feminists insist it does, in which men are 90% of the perpetrators of sexual violence, that reality would never produce the statistics the National Intimate Partner Sexual Violence Survey found for 3 years in a row. Never. So something is not making sense here. And I can tell you one thing, it's not the most accurate. It is not the most accurate statistics on who is being raped and who's doing the raping. That's not the problem. The problem is the feminist framework of reality. So even if we just look at what they're talking about, their frame of how women are victims of men, it's unsupported. It is 100% unsupported. They are constructing it absolute bullshit. We don't have to go to homelessness rates, suicide rates, death in war rates, death in workplace accident rates. Right there, right at the epicenter of what they're convinced is women's fortress of victimhood. Men have a stake. They 100% have a right to be heard as victims of this thing that women have claimed for themselves, which is rape. Okay.
All right. So now let's look at relationships and intimate partner violence. A large U.S. study of young adults found that about 24% of the relationships had some violence. About half of those were reciprocal. But here's the real shocker. When intimate partner violence was one-sided, women were the perpetrator in more than 70% of those cases. Actually, not shocking to us because we knew this already. So you're basically catching up with like reality. I guess that's fine. So contrast these statistics with cinematic landscape. And of course, they obviously, it's the opposite of reality. The disjunction matters. When films repeatedly suggest that men as a class are dangerous, complicit, or broken, they risk cementing a cultural script that far outstrips reality. Yes, harassment and abuse are serious problems, but they are perpetrated by a minority of men, often repeat offenders. Cinema, however, portrays them as the majority, if not the entirety. Meanwhile, the real vulnerabilities of men, homelessness, suicide, homicide, are erased from the screen. The result is a distortion. Audiences are invited to see the problem not as a subset of bad actors, but as masculinity itself. Yes, all this is true. And the purpose of it is, of course, to present it this way and touch the fifis on the audience so that they believe this. They even sell a lot of these films, which are fictional accounts, completely, but they'll sell them as a reflective of reality, if not reality itself. Remember, they tried to claim that Adolescence was a documentary, and that's not an accident. They still make this claim. So, okay. In real life, not on screen, it's actually safer to be a woman than a man. That's true. Can't argue with that. Allison, are you arguing with Ryan Lopez?
Yeah, I am.
He just got here, and he doesn't know that we've been doing this for like, what, 14 years?
Yep. Well,
yeah,
I asked him for an argument.
You know, Myron Gaines wouldn't have arguments if it weren't for people like us. I'm sorry to tell you, but your boy that you love so much, he got his arguments from us.
Who's the boy that he loves so much?
Fresh and Fit.
Oh.
All those guys,
yeah,
all those
probably.
guys, Earl, Fresh and Fit, you know, whatever, those guys, they all were watching content like ours that's been here for over a decade, and now they're just adopting it, but they didn't find it. They didn't do the work. So
yeah, well, I mean, Andrew Wilson has done a shout out for us, so thank you to him.
Andrew Wilson has given us a shout out. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So
anyway,
Fresh and Fit, huh?
It's fine. Welcome to the stream. But, you know, you must be new here because we've been doing this a long time, and you can go into our channel and see the track record. We've been doing this a long time. So,
lots of predictions.
Yes, most of them we've made a lot of predictions.
True. Including Gamergate. Like, we predicted Gamergate before it happened. I don't know if you were a producer then at but I remember doing actually I don't think you were, because you came in on 2015, but
no, I think I've been doing it since 2014.
Okay, but 2013, I did an episode on Anita Sarkeesian will absolve you of your sins. So it was talking about how the gaming community was going to be taken over by this quasi-religious expectation that they conform to a particular viewpoint. That was in 2013. What happened in 2014? Right? So yeah, we've made predictions of the things that have happened, that have subsequently happened. But so stick around. Right. Maybe you'll find some of our stuff interesting, even though apparently you have a problem with my arguments, but you don't know which ones.
He's taking the L. It's fine. He thinks that men are being treated better than ever. Well, I mean, they maybe until they're not. But all right. So anyway, I don't think they're victims. Don't get it twisted. I don't buy into the victim narrative, but I do think there are blind spots in the way that we look at men's problems compared to women's, and I think that's a different thing.
What does it mean, victims? Yes, men can be victims of things.
No, but I mean victim in the feminist sense, like the systemic victimhood. Like
men can't do that, because only women can do that. Only women can use their victimhood as a form of social currency. Men can't.
Right.
And that's why I understand why people like Ryan Lopez reject the recognition of men's victimhood in certain circumstances, because you can't use it as social currency. It's just supposedly failure, right? Well, it's the truth. Okay? I'm sorry. It's the truth. Regardless of how you feel about it, it is the truth.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to lie? Okay.
All right. Bottom line, absolute numbers. When you tally deaths and serious injuries, homicide, suicide, fatal work injuries, and ED-treated violence, men are harmed and killed in greater numbers overall. Women do suffer more sexual and partner violence, usually from a partner, ex-partner, or family member, with only about 20 to 30% of sexual violence is done by strangers. Taking the full ledger into account, it's clear that on balance, it is much safer to be a woman than a man, and they live on average 5 years longer too.
Yep.
In other words,
1 to 2 of those years is actually due to stress and workplace injury because they are responsible primarily for maintaining society. So men are losing lifespan in order to make sure everybody is protected and provided for and comfortable and fed. Okay.
All right. In other words, these so-called brave realist social dramas are anything but. In truth, according to the hard facts, they're closer to science fiction, fit to be shelved alongside Ad Astra, Inception, and Blade Runner. Turns out sci-fi movies can win Palme d'Ors after all. Post hashtag #MeToo revenge and the ideological shift in Hollywood. Okay. I wonder if they're going to make a prediction. All right, these portrayals are no accident of individual storytelling, but part of a broader ideological shift in Hollywood after the hashtag #MeToo movement. In late 2017, the Harvey Weinstein scandal and the hashtag #MeToo reckoning exposed the prevalence of sexual misconduct by powerful men, not just in entertainment, but across society. The response from the creative community was swift and continues to reverberate. More films centering women's perspectives, more brutal examinations of gender power imbalance, and unmistakably less patience for glorifying or excusing bad men. In fact, Hollywood...
When was there patience for glorifying or excusing bad men? And first of all, haven't a lot of the Me Too accusations collapsed?
A lot of them, yes. Harvey Weinstein's probably going to beat, like, I think every case against him because it was consensual.
And then Cosby also collapsed because of tampering with the evidence.
Yeah.
Like this, there is a substantial amount of the Me Too cases that collapsed because this was a witch hunt. All right.
Okay. Let's see. In fact, Hollywood has arguably turned cinema into a vehicle for advocacy, determined to dramatize the wages of male sin. Hollywood is now becoming its own loudest voice and helping to call out what a bad thing this is, observes Robert Thompson, professor of popular culture at Syracuse University, referring to sexual harassment and abuse. By embedding Me Too's lessons into scripts and characters, filmmakers have essentially institutionalized a cultural reckoning within popular narratives. The Me Too movement was at the front lines. Then it becomes institutionalized by these films and TV shows, which people will continue to watch years later, Thompson notes, pointing out that fiction can serve as a long-lasting record of the era's lessons. In other words, long after the news headlines of predatory bosses fade, movies like The Assistant or Promising Young Woman will remain to remind future viewers of the period when society finally said enough to men's abuse of power. Many creators are openly intentional about this mission.
Society finally said enough about men's abuse of power, as if this hasn't been consistent throughout history, that when men abused women, they were subject to harsh censure by other men. Like this, the weregild. Women commanded more of a weregild, and not just for being physically hurt, but also sexually offended against, and at the time, sexual offense could be for things that we wouldn't, well, maybe we would now, right? Being talked to out of turn by a man could be subject to a fine under the weregild system. So not only women were protected physically against assault and violence like murder, they were also, their sexuality was protected in a way that men's wasn't, against offense. Okay? So men have protected women against other men throughout all of human history. This is the first time where I'm guessing we made women attempted to get rid of the idea of due process and just make everything a social lynch mob. And then they called that progress. Dismantling one of the fundamental principles of an advanced civilization, due process, is progress for women. This is why they weren't allowed to vote. I'm just saying.
Many creators are openly intentional about this mission. Kitty Green, writer-director of The Assistant, based her film's grim portrayal of a Weinstein-like boss on real testimonies and has said she wanted male viewers to feel a tad uncomfortable. A lot of men come out feeling very uncomfortable, Green noted, of audience reactions, adding, I think a little bit of discomfort is what we need right now if we want things to change. Again, so these are portrayals of a Weinstein-like boss based on real testimonies. But if the testimonies were falling apart, which they appear to be, then this is a film built on lies because you just believed what you were told. And you have made people uncomfortable for no reason.
Yeah, that's another thing that we've done, honestly, is we have actually maintained due process and presumption of innocence for these people who have been accused by the Me Too, and in some cases partly vindicated. Now, Weinstein probably was a sex pest, but did he actually sexually assault these women? It's looking like no. Cosby definitely had some pretty degenerate tastes in his sexual picadillos, but it wasn't looking like he assaulted anyone. And we have maintained this line for years now. Okay. All right. Just another thing we've done is essentially what I'm saying. We always have to justify our existence, huh?
The thing is, too, is that, like, you know, these films, they do well with critics and like the snobs in the filmmaking community space too. So that encourages more people to make more movies like this. Like when I was going to art school, if you could be a really shitty artist, but if your art has said something about the political climate, like whether it was about, you know, socialism being good or climate change or feminism or race rights, then your shitty project would get a higher grade and maybe even get displayed in a gallery somewhere because you had the right opinions about stuff. And what that did was it encouraged, if not straight up manipulated, students to making more content like that because they wanted to, like, basically get the accolades for having the right social opinions on things. And so I think the same thing happens in film. This is why indie movies, I hate them so much, because they're almost always a kind of like social commentary, which is almost always a leftist one. And that's what they put out there. And that's what succeeds. And that's what gets Oscars. And that's what gets, you know, BAFTAs or whatever. And so it creates a cycle of everyone else doing that too. And so you just get more of this feminist crap than like authenticity. You get more of this shit than anything that's real, which is why you're not going to see movies that are about, you know, like the truth about male suffering, whether it's homelessness or not having access to children or whatever it is, right? You're just not going to get that. It has to have something in it that is, you know, friendly to the sensibilities of people in the industry of filmmaking and their viewpoints on the world. So, and the more of those boxes you can tick, the better your movie is going to be, the more praise it's going to get. So, all right. But anyway, Emerald Fennell, who wrote and directed Promising Young Woman, has similarly explained that her film is a pointed response to decades of endemic sexism. She deliberately filled it with situations drawn from real life. There's nothing in it that isn't extremely commonplace, Fennell said, emphasizing that the predatory behaviors depicted are all too familiar and widespread. That commonality is precisely the point. Her film suggests the problem is all around us in every nice guy at the bar, which is obviously not true. But we already went over that. So
yeah, and there's a substantial amount of the problem that women need to take responsibility for. And increasing. That was like those numbers, 40 to 67% of sexual violence could be perpetrated by women. Those numbers were from a decade and a half ago. The millennial shift suggests that could have gotten even higher. Whew. And it's not that that's true, because we don't have the science yet. It's that it could be true, and we don't know. All right.
Yep. The surge of female-led vengeance tales and social satires is so notable that even mainstream media began to notice a new subgenre. In a post-#MeToo world, how better to find escapist fun than by ruthlessly dispatching awful men at the multiplex, quipped the Washington Post's Anne Hornaday, what an unfortunate name that is, commenting on the wave of films inviting audiences to revel in women getting payback against brutish men. It's kind of sick, isn't it? Like, do women really? I mean, I guess there is definitely a subset of women that get off on that. Even men too, actually, that get off on that
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, like I remember being really annoyed at some piece of fiction. I think it was sort of like a modern Western TV series, and the guys were just like every man was sort of tainted, and then they were predatory, and the women were all basically victims. And I was like, this is annoying. But there were guys who in the Discord who were like, no, I'll take it. I'm okay with this. Or actually it was a movie, to be honest, but it was have a similar nature. And I realize it's because men don't have a problem with admitting to the sexual violence that men engage in. Right? They're not going to sit there and say that doesn't happen, or we don't have to take responsibility for it insofar as preventing it happening, protecting our female relatives, etc. Right? And also taking part in the altruism that prevents and punishes it. The altruistic punishment, basically cops and prosecutors, etc., jailers, right? So the men don't actually have a problem with these narratives. Now, I think they're starting to, because now there's no good guy that's actually fighting back, right? And actually represents the way that men should conduct themselves. So like a lot of guys are getting more upset at this because of the removal of that character. But for the most part, and maybe that's something that's admirable about men, they are okay with narratives in which men are sexually violent because they recognize that men are responsible for their half of sexually predatory behavior. It's women who have a problem with that. Not just recognizing it, but going so far as to police it, to start shaming it. And again, this is something that women were better at a generation ago. Okay.
Okay. From stylish rape revenge thrillers like Promising Woman to action flicks with female assassins mowing down male abusers, vengeance is presented as cathartic justice. These movies have a clear emotional aim, deliver satisfaction by punishing or overcoming the on-screen avatars of so-called toxic masculinity. Hornaday noted that as gratifying as this can be, it also has become formulaic, a dubious cycle of abusive men and the women savagely getting their own back, to the point where it's feeling monotonous and even like its own form of toxicity. In short, flipping the gender script, making women the heroes and men the villains, that's not flipping the script. What are you talking about? When have we had a period where women were the villains and men were the heroes? When?
Yeah.
I mean, there are individual examples of female villains, but it's not like a whole, like a whole series of films where all the women were evil and all the men were good. Like that just, what do you mean flipping the script? That's I get it. I get it. This person's writing this. They probably thought it was a clever turn of phrase. It just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't, because women were never universally cast as villains.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I don't even, honestly, if you look back at older cinema, they weren't universally cast as damsels either.
No.
They may not have gone toe to toe with men physically, but they usually were competent in other ways, which is why they were part of the story. But yeah, it's some feminists worry it creates a new kind of caricature. Why do we have to care about feminists worrying? Right? Why is it that it's
this person still hasn't let go of their own feminism, because the rest of the sentence says, in short, flipping the gender script, making women the heroes and men the villains may redress an age-old imbalance. What are you talking about? What age-old imbalance? But if every story is framed as women good, men bad, even some feminists worry it creates a new kind of caricature. What do you mean a new kind of caricature? Like all of this is presupposing quite a bit before this happened.
Yes. Yeah, you got a lot of assumptions you're making here. There was never a point in time where women were cast as villains and men as heroes universally like this. This isn't flipping any script, right? There was never a point in time where women were bad and men were good. Not in this, not in any kind of recent memory. Certainly not during the Victorian era when women were the angels of the house. And so like this is just you're off in your weeds here. You're like, oh, this manufactured reality doesn't make sense to me. It's manufactured. My manufactured reality is correct. Like what? Even its own form of toxicity. Oh, and I like monotonous and formulaic. Yeah, enjoy your boring, regurgitated, paint by numbers movies, everyone, because that's what you're getting for the rest of eternity. No nuance, no character development, just the same thing over and over and over again. We're all going to be occupying our little cell in the intersectional ziggurat, being fed the same lukewarm podlum for the rest of eternity. Okay.
I wonder if this period of films will be looked back on as a kind of exploitation period. Like in the 70s, we had blaxploitation movies, and they were all like low budget movies that featured black cast and black main characters. And then there was what I guess you ever heard of Bruceploitation? Because of the popularity of Bruce Lee, there were a bunch of Bruce Lee imitators like Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee, and I swear to God, these are real. And they made a bunch of martial arts films trying to pass them off as Bruce Lee movies, but they weren't. It was called Bruceploitation. I wonder if they'll look back on this and call it like Me Too exploitation or something, where these are all like these female feminist revenge movies that nobody liked, and they were all like the same formulaic, stories.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, cranked out. So anyway, still, it's clear that for now, Hollywood, what?
Okay, I'm just really curious why we've offended Ryan Lopez so much by our existence. Okay, continue.
I don't know. I think he's just spurging out, and there doesn't seem to be any reason for it. But anyway, still, it's clear that for now, Hollywood and the independent film world sees itself as having a moral mandate. The entertainment industry was, after all, ground zero for #MeToo. No, only thing Me Too did was expose what we already knew, that there was a thing called the casting couch, and there were plenty of women that were willing to throw away their dignity to get a good role and become super famous. And that's why they were all thanking Harvey Weinstein for making their careers. And all it did was expose that, and they knew that they were ashamed. And so they tried to cover it up by accusing him. It's just like what happens when a woman cheats on her boyfriend or husband, and then when it looks like she's going to get caught, she accuses the person she cheated with of raping her, because it protects her dignity, and she doesn't care what happens to him in the process. It's basically the same thing. So, Pepito gives us $25. Can we get some Italian hands in the chat? Pepito gives us $25 and says, flipping the script is what we should do. Good show, Badgers. Thanks. Thank you, Pepito. All right. Anyway, now it is using the tools of storytelling to reinforce the movement's message. As one Reuters report put it, post-Weinstein, Hollywood is helping to call out mad male behavior and embed these cautionary tales into the culture. We are essentially watching a form of cultural revenge play out on screen, a backlash against generations of male-dominated narratives. If the old Hollywood exalted the suave leading man, the new Hollywood often subjects him to a trial by fire, sometimes literally. Yeah, but the suave leading man did not exist as suave at the expense of the women on screen.
No, that's the assumption at the heart of this, is that male characters in the past existed at the expense of female characters. Actually, female characters in past cinema were more interesting, more realized. They just didn't, we weren't constantly at war with the men, the leading men in their movies. This is, again, this is not a reversal, a backlash. This is not a reversal, and it's not a backlash, because there's nothing to backlash against. And the other thing is, how did Hollywood put itself in position to lecture the rest of the world about Hollywood's own problems? Like, okay. Yeah,
that's exactly what they did. The Me Too movement, which was a Hollywood problem, And again, I would say not a problem at all, because you don't have to fuck the guy if you can just like hold on to your fucking dignity and just say, I'm not doing that. But they didn't. There were women who said they signed the contract, they sold their souls, and now they want to blame everyone else. And they pivoted away from Hollywood and they made Me Too everyone's problem. And it worked, because there were men in the workplace, you know, getting fired left and right over every little slight.
Yep. Or even made up slights.
Yeah,
like
or made up slights.
He didn't put out. That's a firing. Okay. Okay, how many more paragraphs is there? Because we still have to go through Bryrony, and I'm assuming that you got.
This is kind of long, it looks like. Well, let's just okay. So they're basically toxic masculinity from pop psychology to Hollywood gospel. So they talk a little bit about, we know what toxic masculinity is. Hollywood's embraced this with zeal.
We could, you know what? We could finish this article at a later date.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
It's forever. It goes forever. So let's get into Bryrony.
All right, let's leave it at toxic masculinity. Come back to this later.
Yeah,
look at this.
There's plenty in here, guys. You can go look at the article yourself and boggle. And just a spoiler. At the end result of recognizing all of this shit that's being put on men in cinema, this individual calls for let's just get along. Like, okay, don't recognize what group of people is pushing this crap and call them out for it. Let's just all get along. So men should just keep enduring it, I guess. All right, let's get into Bryrony. I could use a little bit of a break from this. I don't know if Bryrony is really a break.
No, it's a different kind of cringe. So this is a Bryrony Claire video called "Why Is Everyone Quitting Birth Control?"
No, they're not.
When everyone, I guess you mean women, but okay.
Because men don't really have any.
Yeah, because men don't really have any. I mean, but okay. So she's basically making the argument that women should, I don't know, like they need to have choice in birth control or something. But let's see. Let me see here. All right, let's play a little bit of the intro so you guys can get a sense of it. Let me know. I'm checking to see if the sound works. No, it's not working. So I gotta do this over again. Stop sharing, and then I gotta reshare it. Just give me a second, guys. For some reason, this happens every so often, but okay, here we go.
Roe v. Wade being overturned wasn't enough, now they're coming for birth control. No, really. Whilst everyone was distracted with the Charlie Kirk discourse, which, let's be real, is still going on, firstly on the same day the event happened and everybody was—
Wait, so Charlie Kirk getting assassinated is a distraction? Okay. All right, they killed a guy. Why are you distracted by that? Okay, I see where you're at, Bryrony. You have no soul. You're a demon. All right, let's keep going.
Distracted talking about it. Senate Republicans voted to block the release of the Epstein files. And the Trump administration told the New York Times that birth control, such as hormonal implants, the pill, and IUDs, that those are actually abortions. Jessica Valenti was the person I originally heard this from, and I'm going to link their Substack for you down below along with their Instagram. As this guy said on my last video, bye-bye IUDs, birth control, and abortions. First it's South Carolina, hopefully next it's all of America. Hold women accountable again.
You know what I just a couple days ago responded to? There was a tweet by a woman who said that real men take responsibility for a single woman's children. So essentially, real men take responsibility for the effects of someone else's sex life.
Yep.
But women can't take responsibility for the effects of their own sex life. Okay. Now, I'm pro-choice, but I don't necessarily agree with government funding that choice or offloading the responsibility for your sex life onto other taxpayers. They're not obligated to pay for your entertainment. And as far as I can tell, you guys just consider sex to be entertainment. You don't consider it to be a human right. If you did, you'd have a completely different attitude towards incels. You consider it to be entertainment. Why should anyone have to pay for your entertainment or the consequences or preventing the consequences of your entertainment to yourself?
Yep.
Like they're not saying that this stuff won't exist for you to pay for. They just don't want to pay for it themselves. They don't want to pay for it for the other people in their nation, and they don't want to pay for it abroad. As an anarcho-capitalist, even though I'm pro-choice, I agree with those sentiments. Nobody should have to pay for the consequences of your entertainment on yourself. Okay.
I don't think that's inconsistent with being like an ANCAP at all, because what Bryrony Claire is arguing for, and a lot of these women, Jessica Valenti, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. They are saying that this should be paid for by the state, which is slavery.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
like nobody has to pay for the rest of the world does not have to pay for your destruction.
Yeah.
Of like your chosen desire,
funding your irresponsibility.
Well, or even funding your destruction of the society that gives you all these rights. Like, okay, I just wanted to say, because people are like, oh, Ryan Lopez, was it Lopez? Yeah, got owned. I just wanted him to present his argument. That's all. Like, all he did was just sit there and feel, vibe, like create, like add his feelings to there was no argument. No, I'm like disappointed. Where was your argument? Why didn't you present an argument? You kept saying you had one. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I hate
anyway,
that. I hate when people are like, I have an argument. Well, we'll share it. Like, share it with the class, please. I have an argument, and it's perfect. It'll totally annihilate you, blow you out of the water. You'll realize that you're completely lame. Okay, well, share it with the class.
Yeah.
No argument.
Anyway,
no
all this is fear mongering. I don't think that Trump is going to make birth control illegal or something. I think that states have whatever right, they have the right to do whatever they want. And some of them may do that, but you're Australian. What do you care?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so I'll play the rest of this clip.
Accountable for medical access? What is actually wanted is for us to lose control of our autonomy. This topic was voted by my patrons.
Oh, shit.
Today I'm going to be...
What?
Okay, why do I have to pay for your entertainment, Bryrony? Aren't you a lesbian?
She's
like, hell,
married,
why do I have to pay for the police to stop your lesbian lover from beating the shit out of you?
Yeah.
Well, I
think she's supposed to be, I think she's married but queer or something. Who knows?
That's unfortunate
really, these
for
people
whoever she's married to, unless that's a woman.
It's a dude.
It's a dude. Oh, okay. Or maybe it's a trans man. I believe so.
She has talked about her husband in other videos. That's the only reason why I know.
Wow. So. Well, either this is a complete grift and she just knows how to make money, which I hope for his sake that's what it is. Or this is not going to end well for him.
Yep.
Okay.
Making some cookies because I think we all need a sweet treat. It's not my recipe. I've just kind of tinkered around with it. Okay, but I'll link them.
All right, let me
Really? Okay. All right. Fine. Pink. I understand. But that pink, that Pepto-Bismol pink, that queasy stomach pink, that you don't know if you should put your freaking face, your butt in the toilet pink. Like, oh, good Lord. I just found that pink offensive.
I get it.
Yeah.
Everything about her is offensive to me.
What did she get backlash? So much so that she had to put a stop to it very quickly afterwards because, won't someone please think of the children?
Olivia Rodrigo, I guess, was a singer who was distributing morning after pills at her concerts. I think it's weird. Don't you think that's weird?
Freaking weird.
Like, yeah. I guess Bryrony Claire would just think that's sex positive or something, but I think it's really strange. I would feel really strange. Teal Deer says she's like most queer people, totally straight, but with extra steps to gain victim clout. Yes, absolutely. She's married to a man. She's only involved with men, but she calls herself queer. And what are you going to do? Argue against it? You can't. But she's doing all of the heterosexual stuff. All of it, except making babies, probably. And you know what? I'm for that. Please don't.
Where did Teal Deer send his message?
He's in the chat.
I don't see the message.
I see it. You got to switch to live chat maybe instead of top chat.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there he is.
I don't know why YouTube even has a top chat. I think it's just another way to filter people out, but
yeah, I didn't even realize that.
Always switch to live chat if you're looking at YouTube. Otherwise, you'll miss some comments, and I don't know why.
How fascinating. Oh, by the way, if you want to send a comment and not have it get dead-ended in YouTube's comment labyrinth system, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way to send us a tip and send a comment with that tip if you so desire. feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right, let's keep going.
All right.
IUDs, the pill and the implant or the rod, are not just prescribed for birth control reasons, yet these are the ones which are being targeted.
Are you freaking kidding me? IUD is not prescribed for anything but birth control reasons? Are you? No.
No, she said they're not. Well, she's arguing that IUDs are not only for birth control, but they're being targeted.
Put a freaking thing like that in your womb to make things better in any conceivable capacity.
I don't know what that is, but it doesn't look pleasant at all.
I've had one. It is not. It is absolutely not. I cannot. What the hell is she on?
Well, she's trying to make the argument that the patriarchy is trying to destroy women. So she has to everything follows from her assumptions. That's all. But anyway,
your guide to birth control. Actually, I want to point vasectomy, tubal ligation, long acting. You mean end of freaking fertility? Okay.
Yeah.
Let us go. Let's keep going.
No, it's just an option. What are you talking about?
Yet these are the ones which are being targeted. Lots of people are put on birth control for a variety of reasons, from being a teenager onwards, from acne to PCOS, to hormonal issues, endometriosis, PMDD, and more. Birth control in the form of an IUD, rod, or the pill have been incredibly instrumental in allowing people to be able to actually live their day-to-day lives more comfortably. I would say more comfortably and not actually comfortably, because
what is with these women who are super femme, married to men, and freaking out about doing just being that way?
It's an act. It's part of the performance, I think.
Yeah, I'm
way to get other women to look.
Oh,
she's just like me. She bakes and stuff.
If anything, women like this have less to fear, supposedly, than women like me.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're out here fearing what? I don't know. I don't fear stupid things like the potential of the handmaiden's tale. And yet these women do. And yet, honestly, they probably willingly wear the stupid costume and trot themselves out in public. And they're probably perfectly happy staying at home, doing female jobs. I don't get this.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only way this makes sense is if this is, as Nietzsche said, tools for the management of men. It's tools for the management of men. That's it. This has absolutely no reality outside of that. They just make mouth noises. They don't care if they're logical, rational, if they make sense historically, if they're supported, if the arguments are coherent. They just make mouth noises, and men go, "Yep, I'll do that. Right on it, dear." Okay.
All right.
If you're one of the lucky people out there who doesn't suffer from painful periods and all of the horrors that go along with it, how does it feel to be God's favorite? I got put on the pill at the age of 16 or 17 years old due to my inability to go to school because I was in such excruciating levels of pain, struggling with migraines, all sorts. And a couple of years later...
Yeah, actually, some Norwegian says, wouldn't it just be easier not to have sex? Yeah, that's right. It's so critical that women get birth control for sex that they hate. That they constantly complain about.
With people they hate, right?
With people they hate, sex they constantly complain about. Oh, it's so shitty. Well, then stop having it. It's like you go to the amusement park, you demand people like me pay for your ticket, and then you complain about every freaking ride in it. Well, then don't go. Why do I have to pay for you to be miserable? Solve everyone's problems. Stop having sex. You don't like it. You say it's bad. You say it's miserable. Well, why are you forcing people to pay for your miserable experiences? Like, we could just solve everyone's problem. We could solve the taxpayer not wanting to pay for you, and you could solve the fact you don't enjoy it anyway. Stop doing it. Okay. Go find something entertaining that actually entertains you.
IUD as well, because health issues, so fun to deal with. We'll get into the good and bad of it later.
IUD, what the fuck? Okay, I gotta confirm this. What health issues do IUDs
fix?
Address. That's a good one. Of reproduction. Primarily used for contraception. Oh, they do. Okay. But they address several non-reproductive health issues.
Are they the only way to do that?
Hormonal IUD.
Are IUDs the only way to address?
Oh, so you put it in and it releases hormones. So she had an IUD inserted to release hormones. You realize that hormonal IUDs can alleviate menstrual cramps by thinning the uterine lining. Manage symptoms of so they're not IUDs specifically, they're hormonal IUDs. Okay, all right. That would have been nice to clarify. So it's not actually the IUD that's doing it, it's the hormones.
Yeah.
Your period's on birth control. Oh, I hope you didn't meet your partner while you were on birth control, my dear. Never go off it. Because you're not going to like what you smell when you go off it.
Let me just jump ahead to the next time code. So she basically talks about the legalities of bodily autonomy, and then she used a bunch of TV show and movie clips because those are her primary references. And then she has a section where basically she's saying they're going to be rolling back rights. So because that's been the narrative for since the beginning, basically. Any day now, ladies are going to lose all their rights. Any day now. Oh, I got a big super chow, big one from Dan DiFilippo for $100. Thank you, Dan. I don't have any soundboard stuff yet, so. And he says, the question of abortion for women is commonly mishandled. People, especially on the right, frame it in terms of whether it's good or bad when the question should be, do women deserve to have abortions? And the answer is no. But for political capital purposes, we shouldn't fight it.
You're right. They don't.
Yeah.
Because this is, I don't understand it, right? I mean, you got a good point. This is allowing women access to entertainment that makes them miserable. Like, wouldn't it be better to just be like, yeah, just don't have sex. You constantly complain about the results. You constantly complain about the activity. It apparently makes you miserable and traumatizes you. So why are you expecting people to pay for you to have access to it? Okay? Let's end the farce. We don't have to pay for your birth control or your abortion. And you stop engaging in something that apparently makes you miserable. Win-win. Men are no good at sex. You keep saying constantly. But why do you seek them out to the point where you make everybody else pay for the consequences of your entertainment on yourself? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. All right.
He wants a total abortion ban with no exceptions. He supported bans that would not only criminalize abortion, but ban IVF treatments and common forms of birth control, and that you.
Speaker Mike Johnson. It was Speaker Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House.
Okay.
So no, not Trump.
Okay. Well, again, we're talking about a form of entertainment that women seem to be disappointed with. So perhaps you could go with forms of entertainment that won't disappoint you as much, such as learning philosophy, learning advanced calculus. right? Predicate mathematics, logic, doing art, writing things that aren't pornographic, could do all kinds of other entertaining things, ladies, than this thing that you apparently do not find entertaining. You rather find it miserable and traumatic. Well, stop doing it. Why is it so important that women get this form of entertainment when they don't find it entertaining? Why is that so bloody important? Okay.
To contraception.
And birth control like really screws up female brains, by the way. Every single one of you need to make sure that your loved ones are not on birth control.
The right to contraception.
Yeah, but okay, going back to this is Charlie Kirk, by the way, which I think I'm just going to say it. I think this is true. My gut tells me she is sharing these clips of Charlie Kirk to justify the murder of Charlie Kirk, because if she can demonstrate to her audience that he had the wrong kinds of opinions, then their sympathy for his being murdered and like his children not having their father and his wife not having her husband is justified because he said a true thing about birth control. It's a true thing, because we have had Aiden Paladin on our show, and she spoke at ICMI 2019, and she made a video on her own where she goes into the problems of hormonal birth control. And these arguments were picked up by other people like Sydney Watson, who also has a massive audience, and she did a whole video on hormonal birth control as well. Charlie Kirk is just saying what we have been saying. And Bryrony Claire is trying to use this. Again, if it is the case that hormonal birth control is screwing with women, and we know it is because we have seen the data. Karen has said this is herself. She's echoed this. When I started dating Lindsay and I asked her if she was on the pill, she said, and this was in 2015 when I met her, she said, I don't mess with my hormones. So she knew that it wasn't good for you. Yeah. And he is just saying that. That is just something that women should consider. But because Bryrony Claire and feminists think it's so important that women feel as though they can just not get pregnant, they just will fuck with their own bodies to do it, then they'll just have to permit that. And the funny thing is that they could, in fact, wasn't birth control, was it invented by a man?
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah. So they could literally use this as another thing to blame men for, but they want birth control bad enough that they're not willing to stop.
Yeah, but why? This is what I don't understand. At best, this seems to be a form of entertainment that you don't find entertaining. Why are you so obsessed with it? Why are you so obsessed with it? And yes, birth control has serious implications for mood disorders. Yeah. And it does have this side effect, this drawback, unless you are somebody who experiences extremely painful periods. But that is a medical condition, right? Okay, but I just wanted to point out that Teal Deer said, it's time we must repeal women. Yes, I agree. This is how we do it, okay? We get rid of the legal category woman. Everybody is a man now, right? Everybody has the protections of a man, okay? That means if men have this protection, for example, that they have the right to have their bathrooms based on their genital configuration, men who are biological women will still have that protection. So there'll still be biological male and biological female bathrooms and shit like that. And also handicapped men have their own Olympics. So women will be classified as a form of handicapped man, and they can have their own sports. So it's all good, except that women and men have exactly the same rights. Exactly the same rights to birth control, exactly the same rights to abortion, exactly the same rights to abandonment, exactly the same rights to work. Everything is exactly the fucking same. Let us repeal women. Let's get rid of the legal category woman entirely. Remove it from existence. But we can still have medical categories of male and female, which means that females can still have differential treatment based on the medical category that they're in. Just if you're a man in a particular medical category, you're gonna have different treatment than whatever. So we can still keep those medical differences, but get rid of the social, political, and legal ones entirely. Just have one category of person, which is man.
There you go. Like
There you go.
mankind.
Mankind. That's it.
Well, I'm unfortunately I have to go.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'll have to do this. We can do the rest of this later. But
All right.
I have to go pick up Lindsay. So
I guess we'll have to finish this show off at a later date.
yeah,
All right.
we can do it on Friday.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Feedthebadger.com/just the tip if you want to send those messages about anything that we've discussed. And we got to figure out what's going on with the shorts thing at some point. Hopefully it pops up. Did it just pop up?
I'll look into it after I get back.
Are you and you just cannot do it the previous way? Like it won't let you.
It's going to. Well, I'll have to talk to you about it later, but it won't. It won't.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Cell phone feeds. There.
All right. Feedthebadger.com/just the tip to send us a tip and a message if you want with that tip. We don't have the fundraiser live yet, so I'm not going to give you that link. All right. So I'll hand it back to Brian.
All right. Okay, well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. Sorry for the abrupt end. I just realized I'm really out of time. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Red Pill Cinema, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.